Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today, we're going over 5 ships that need a little bit of love from wargaming in the form of some buffs. Now, of course, there's plenty of ships in this game that could use some tweaks one way or the other, but we're just going over these 5 today. These are 5 that I've played a decent bit recently, and they really could use some love from wargaming. Now, of course, again, there's plenty of ships that we could go over in this video, but these are just my 5. If you guys would like to share your 5 or your 20 or whatever in the comments down below, please feel free to do so. Before we get into the video, quick update on the giveaway. Today is the last day to enter into the 35,000 subscriber giveaway. To enter into that giveaway, go on Monday's video, and I explained how to do that in last Monday's video. So, today's the last day to enter. Make sure you get your name in there, and then we'll start giving away the premium ships tomorrow. And you should, hopefully, if they get back to me fast enough, see the results of the giveaway starting on Monday. We're going to be giving away 1 ship a day from Wednesday through Wednesday, if all goes according to plan. So make sure you guys stick around for that. So let's go ahead and get right into the list, starting at number 5 with the Tier 8 German battleship, the Bismarck. Of course, the Bismarck. This ship is one of my favorite ships in game, of course, for the historical reasons behind it, along with its playstyle. I love brawling, as those of you that watch this channel long enough should have figured out by now. But sadly, of course, with the way that the game's gone, brawling isn't really that great anymore unless you have a ship that's super specialized into it, like the Schlieffen, with its, of course, great speed, good concealment, great secondary range, and just mind-boggling number of secondary guns on that ship. Then you get torpedoes and hydroacoustic search on top of that on the Schlieffen. Bismarck ain't got a lot of that. She's got quite a few number of secondaries, and she has great armor for brawling, and she is pretty quick. She does have hydro, but no torpedoes, no stealthy mode like the Schlieffen has. So she's just been kind of power crept by the Schlieffen and the new battlecruiser line, and then of course with the direction that the meta's been going into, where engagements are happening further and further out, her main battery guns, which did get a buff a little while ago. They replaced all the German battleship main battery guns ellipse with that of the American battleships, so their dispersion isn't as wonky as before, but she still only has 8 guns at tier 8, which is compensated for with their 25-second, or I believe it's 26-second reload time, which is a pretty quick reload time. But again, couple that with the dispersion, and it's not that great. So the Bismarck either needs a little bit shaved off of her main battery reload time, or she needs a slight buff to her accuracy. Either or, I think, will get this ship right back on track and allow it to still be a pretty decent brawler when it can get into those situations, but also allow her to hang in at those longer range engagements that are happening so often more and more at higher tier. So that's why she's at number 5. It's some very small tweaks, not any major change that needs to happen to the Bismarck to make her great, because she still is great when she can get into those close-in engagements and she can bring her secondaries into the fight and get close, quick, and be able to do what she needs to do rather than sit at the back of the map for 10-15 minutes like so often again happens at higher tiers. So some slight tweaks needed here, and she can be again a fantastic ship once again. Hopefully, Wargame, if you're listening, you might look into this. Alright, going down to number 4, we have the tier 8 premium German CV, the Graf Zeppelin. What's Liz talking about? Either ships that need help or ships that aren't that great would be completed without the Graf Zeppelin. So the Graf Zeppelin, as I've talked about plenty of times on this channel, is probably one of the most nerfed ships in the game. She was released way back before the CV rework, then pulled from the shop because they did a little switcheroo right before the Graf Zeppelin was released, and the Graf Zeppelin we got way back then was terrible. And then she finally came back out when the CV rework came out, and her whole premise was that her planes have a low HP pool, but they are stupidly fast, so you can blitz right in, drop your payload off, and blitz right out without losing too many planes. But then she got hit with the global CV plane speed nerf, where the planes, again across the board, got their speed cut out from under them, and the Graf Zeppelin didn't get any type of HP compensation for that for her planes. So now you have pretty frail planes that aren't going as fast as they were originally designed to do, and again, with the CV rework and how many hot fixes and changes there were from, one hot fix to the next, she just continually got worse. I made a whole video talking about most of the changes done to her if you want to go look at that. And she has gotten a couple of buffs recently. They messed with her AP dive bombers drop ellipse to where the bombs went from basically running away to the edge of the reticle to now where it's more of a 50-50 chance to where you'll have at least one bomb hit the target rather than completely missing. And they've also again tweaked a couple of things here and there with like the rockets, the altitude that they attack at. And she has been improved quite a bit, but I do think she still needs a little bit of a buff to her plane's HP. I know, buffing a CV, but it's the Graf Zeppelin. It's one of the worst tier 8 CVs. I think only the the Indomitable is potentially worse than the Graf Zeppelin, and even that might not even be that much worse because the Indomitable at least has HE bombs to where you can get consistent damage out of it, where the Graf Zeppelin, her bombs are all AP, so you're rolling the dice because you're going to either overpin or you get a pin, but that's like small potato damage compared to when her bombs actually connect and get their citadel damage, and then they even nerfed that way back in the day as well. So yeah, maybe just a slight buff to her plane's HP, and maybe returning a little bit of that AP bomb damage to her dive bombers would help the ship out a little bit. I mean, the Graf Zeppelin is a meme ship, of course. A CV with secondaries, a CV that I run Lucians on with a full secondary build. Well, as much as you can build into the secondaries with the CV commander skills and the modules on it, because of course when those secondaries get going, then that's when the damage numbers really start rising up in the Graf Zeppelin. I joke about it at least that it's really a cruiser with 3 flavors of spotting plane because of how good the secondaries on this ship are. But yeah, she's a little bit of love here in the plane department, and I think she'll be in a much better position. She won't be dominating by any stretch of the imagination, but this ship really needs some love, especially as often as tier 8 CVs get up tiered. Alright, moving on down to number 3, we have the tier 7 premium French cruiser, battle cruiser, or battleship, the Strasbourg. So the Strasbourg is the sister ship to the Dunkirk that got barely any changes, and then they shoved her up to tier 7. She got a 0.1 buff to her Sigma, a 1 second buff to her reload time, a slight buff to some parts of her armor, and then they gave her the reload booster consumable and said, yep, go up to tier 7 with yourself. Oh, okay. Okay, so they took the Dunkirk, which many a player considers to be a pretty meh premium at tier 6, and then put it in a tier where it's constantly getting up tiered to tier 7 games with mostly tier 6 armors. She got slightly buffer what was it? I think it's her main belt got a few more millimeters worth of armor on it. The bow armor is still exactly the same as the Dunkirk, so you can get overmatched to hell. Well, you will get overmatched to hell, especially at tier 6. And sure, they gave it the reload booster consumable, but yeah, that's nice to have, but it doesn't help when I'm getting vibe checked through the nose every salvo from literally every tier 9 battleship. So this ship needs more work done to it. It definitely needs some type of either icebreaker bow on the bow to where they can kind of give it like the battle cruiser treatment like we see the higher tier battle cruisers get, where they have that icebreaker bow that can't be overmatched by ships of the tier that it can see and above. Now I get that they can't really go full ham on it because it is a tier 7 and it can see tier 5, so you don't want to go and just give it obviously like a 32 millimeter bow or anything like that, because that would be way too much. So they could either give it some type of icebreaker bow, or they could potentially improve the heel on it where it's not exactly a super heel but maybe a improved heel, something like the Warspite gets, because again you're taking a tier 6 ship and making it fight tier 9s a lot more. So you could do something like that, or maybe crank the accuracy on the guns up even more. Or they could go full in and give it the full Jean Bart treatment, because that's essentially what this ship is to the Dunkirk, like how the Jean Bart is a Richelieu but up tiered, but they gave it, the reload booster, the engine booster, and they again improved its accuracy and such. They could do full Jean Bart here with the Strasbourg and then give it the engine booster to at least compensate it for having very poor armor, to make it a battleship that you can, or a battle cruiser, where you can quickly zoom across the map, get into a nice flanking position, or run down a flank, get on the side of the enemy ships, then Now, of course, attack the side of the enemy ships with your nice punchy French AP. That could certainly work, and I think that would be a very popular design. It is currently with the current battle cruisers that we have in game. So any combination of those buffs would be very welcome to the Strasbourg. Unfortunately, as she sits right now, the Dunkirk's just a straight up better ship because you won't get consistently up tiered to tier 9. You will get up to tier 8, but the Dunkirk is much better at dealing with tier 8 ships than the Strasbourg is at dealing with tier 9 ships. With the Strasbourg, you kind of get relegated to HE spamming, and again, you're seeing tier 8 games, which means, or tier 9 games, which means you're seeing, tier 8 CVs, which you can see in the Dunkirk. Tier 9 battleships, which again really don't care much about the armor on your ship at all, and yeah, it's not a fun time at all, and the ship sorely needs some help. Alright, going on down to number 2, we have the Tier 5 Premium American Battleship, the Texas. Oh man, the Texas. They slaughtered my boy here at the Texas. The Texas was one of the first premiums I bought in game. And her whole thing is that she, for a very long time, had the best AA in the game until you got to Tier 8. They took the fact that the Texas was the first American battleship to have AA guns mounted to it, and they freaking ran with that idea. If you look at the model of the Texas, you can see the ship is absolutely just covered in AA guns. Glorious AA guns. And back in the day, if you built into AA in the Texas, the CVs left you alone, because they knew their planes weren't coming back if they tried to attack you. That's how good the Texas was with her AA. But then, of course, the CV rework happened, and they normalized AA range across the board. So now the Texas, which still does have good AA DPS, it's like something like triple that of the New York, the base class that the ship is a member of. But still, it's stuck at 3.5 kilometers. Which means that, quite literally, with the Soviet CVs, they don't care about your AA because they aren't going to be in your AA range long enough to do anything. Like, most of the Soviet CVs can drop from like 4 or 5 kilometers away, which in most ships' cases means that they're only in the outer flak bubble. They aren't in the inner DPS bubble. With the Texas, you aren't even in the outer flak bubble at that point. So, yeah, that sucks. And they changed this on the Texas, and they never touched her again. At all. So, all the stats and characteristics that she gave up from the New York were never compensated. For example, the New York has a main battery range of 18.04 kilometers. The Texas has a main battery range of 16.4 kilometers. So she lost, like, what, a kilometer and a half of range for that. Also, her reload time. The Texas has a 34-second base reload time, whereas the New York has a base reload time of 30 seconds, 30.5 seconds. Yeah. I mean, other than that, the main battery guns are the same guns, but think about that. You're giving up 3.5 seconds, well, pretty much 4 seconds, to get AA that is essentially useless in today's World of Warships. So, the whole point of this ship is essentially gone, and nothing was changed about it, which really sucks because I really like the Texas. I love the Texas Museum. I've been there several times. I hope their dry dock period is very successful and she opens back up in a very glorious state, and I can't wait for that to happen. But unfortunately, her in-game counterpart has been absolutely murdered with zero compensation or zero buffs to the ship. So what the ship needs is either one, she needs to have her AA range pushed out to where, maybe not as crazy as it was beforehand, but certainly better than her tech line counterparts to make her stand out as a premium ship. Or two, they need to give her the main battery parameters of the New York to compensate for taking away, again, the whole point of the ship's existence as a premium. So hopefully that happens in the future. I'll be very, very glad if that does happen if you're listening, Wargaming. But we will see what happens with that. But yes, Texas in sore need of some love from Wargaming. And finally, all the way down at number 1, we have the Tier 8 Premium British Light Cruiser, the Tiger 59. I mean, what else is going to be here? The Tiger 59 is, in my opinion, the worst ship in the game, the worst premium ship in the game. So go figure, the worst premium ship in the game is in the #1 spot for the ship that needs the most buffs. The Tiger 59 needs a lot of work. So if you don't know, the Tiger 59 is essentially a third of a Minotaur in its own ship. It has 2 turrets, 4 guns. They're Minotaur guns. They have the same parameters as the Minotaurs in terms of the AP. So it's got the improved AP. But she has a staggeringly slow reload time on these guns. Which, you know, if we're talking about like a Minotaur analog here with, again, a bagillion turrets on it and well over the amount of guns that the Tiger 59 has, you know, you make that up in the volume, but you put 2 of these turrets on a ship by itself, and yeah, you give it a 3.5-second reload time, which is quite slow. Now, of course, with the Adrenaline Rush, you can build into it and make it a bit faster and such. And again, it's 3.5 seconds, not base. That's with the build that I have on it right now. Sorry, it's 3.2 seconds base. So if you build into it, you can get it down a little bit slower, but you're still looking at around a 3-second reload for 4 guns. So it doesn't sound that bad. You know, you got Minotaur's guns, Minotaur's AP, pin angles, but you're also in a cruiser that's exceptionally easy to Citadel, and you do get the super heal that the British light cruisers have, so there's that going for you. But on top of that as well, you don't have torpedoes, which is terrible, because that's another big aspect of the British light cruisers. They have their AP only guns, which the Tiger 59 has as well. You don't get the torpedoes, which the British light cruisers have. They have their single drop torpedoes, which is very nice for self-defense. So if you're in a situation where, let's say, you're in a smoke screen firing and someone decides to rush you, and most British cruisers, you have the torpedoes to, of course, fend off that attack. You don't have that here in the Tiger 59. You just can keep poking them with your AP. Now, you do get smoke, you do get radar together, which is pretty nice, but again, the DPS is so low on this ship, well, I should say the RPM is so low on this ship, that even if you do spot a destroyer, unless you have like laser guided accuracy and RNG really loves you, you're probably not going to be able to murder that destroyer like you would in any other tier 8 or above British light cruiser, because you don't have the volume, you don't have the RPM. So this ship is just so frustrating to use. I did have a very good game with it here that you're watching in the background. I think it's actually my best game in this ship ever, but that was a lot of farming battleships that either were ignoring me or were completely oblivious to my existence, which is a lot of times what you do in British cruisers. But as you can see, I was here for a very, very, very long time doing this. So she's just so frustrating to use. She either needs to have a buff to her reload time, or they need to give her HE. If she has HE, I think that'll probably solve it right there, because at least at that point, you know, you can cause fires, you can farm damage that way, kill ships that way, because with AP right now, again, they go bow into you, and you're kind of just, well, let me see if I can hit their superstructure, and pray to God that I can with only 4 guns. Of course, the main line makes up for that, the tech line makes up for that, I should say, in the sheer number of guns they have on their ship. The Tiger 59 certainly doesn't have that going for her at all, so she needs some big love from Wargaming, and this is a real still ship too, of course. So again, it's always sad to see when a real still ship is meh in game. So let me know what you guys think about this list in the comments down below, and what your top 5 ships that sorely need buffs are in the comments down below. Again, make sure you check back here in a couple of days to see the results of the giveaway. And again, we will be doing that throughout this week over the next 5 or so days, so make sure you stick around for that. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 40,000 subscribers, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you have a wonderful Monday and a wonderful week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.